here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live Wonder Woman 1984 Spoilercast. 'Tis I, Captain Logan, coming at you during the Christmas hiatus to talk about the first big major superhero movie we've had in like 11 months, I think. And look, it's Connor Nielsen.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Connor. Thanks for joining me to review the film, sir.
Happy to do so. And
we've also got chat moderating again, back from the grave. It's DJ Martinez.
Hey guys, how's it going?
DJ, I'm so happy you were able to make it, man. I didn't expect you to be here. I'm just glad to see you alive and well. DJ I had a pneumonia for a couple weeks. We didn't see him during the biggest shows we had this year, and he's back now to help us chat about Wonder Woman.
Oh, I'm so happy to be back. Yes, let's do it, man. I've got the chat. I've got questions written down. People are lighting up the chat. It's going to be a good show.
Awesome. Well, as always, we're going to claim that we're going to let you guys help us direct the conversation, then we're going to forget about the chat for an hour, and then we're finally going to look at the chat and start answering questions. No, hopefully it doesn't work out that way, but that seems to be what tends to happen. Connor and I are going to give you our initial immediate thoughts about the film. We're going to flip our signs. Connor, did you bring something akin to a sign this time? Or do you have...
I have some more tricks up my sleeve.
Oh, I'm excited to find out what it is. We'll see if they're literally sleeves. Like, maybe inside of his coat, he's wearing, like, red on one side.
Ooh, do you have long...
I can't believe I biffed on this. I was going to get some regular Mountain Dew and some Code Red Mountain Dew, pour them into martini glasses, and then sip one of them.
That's pretty good.
I forgot about it.
Were you going to pretend like it was alcoholic?
What's that?
Were you going to pretend like it was alcoholic?
Yes, of course.
And DJ, obviously, of course, you could weigh in as well. If you'd like
this one, guys.
I don't know how much you feel like jumping in, but obviously feel free. And yeah, guys, write questions anytime during the show. As always, if you throw in super chats, that will guarantee that your question or your topic of conversation about this film gets talked about. But don't feel like you have to do that. We'll do as many pre-written as we can, and we're just gonna go ins and outs of this. So I want to do kind of non-spoiler at the beginning, like we usually do. So if anybody happens to tune in for the first few minutes that still hasn't had a chance to see the movie, we can let them know whether we think they should check it out. But I imagine the majority of people here, or possibly 100% of people here, have already seen the movie, especially since you at the moment don't have to leave your house in order to see it. This movie is on HBO Max right now, and they're doing that, if you haven't heard, with all of the Warner stable throughout this upcoming year for the first 31 days of release, and then they're dropping off, but I imagine it'll only be another month or two before these things go to Blu-ray and on-demand streaming, so you probably won't have to wait too long, even if you don't see it right away. Connor, did you go to the theater, or did you watch this at your house?
I actually watched this at my parents' house on Christmas Day. So I got the HBO Max experience of this one.
Oh, nice.
And DJ, what did you do?
I did the same. Well, no, not at my parents' house.
He went to his parents' house.
We watched it a couple days ago, 2 days ago, on HBO Max. Didn't get to do it on Christmas, but it was so nice to just have it right there. Because I use HBO Max a lot, and I kept seeing it there, right on the banner. They kept promoting it to me, and it worked. I watched it.
I guess to that point, I think it's actually kind of genius for them to only have it available for 1 month, because I know for me, like a lot of movies this year dropping on Netflix or Amazon, I know it's always going to be there, so the immediacy is gone. But now that things are going to be on HBO Max for only 1 month, I think, oh, well, now I will probably watch movies that I probably was going to put on the back burner and never get around to, because they'll only be available for 1 month on HBO Max. So I think that's actually a pretty good model.
Do you think they'll put them immediately in the last chance section on HBO Max? Because it's true. It's the last month you can watch it.
That's really funny. I like that choice as well if it's gotta be simultaneous, because that's about how long most movies are in the theater in the first place. I could have seen them putting it up. It would have seemed so much more gimmicky and kind of unfair if it was like, for the first week, there it is, and then it's gone. Like, it's nice that it's longer than that. I don't know that it being there for a whole month is helping movie theaters at all, because if that's, given that, especially if a movie's not performing, a month is about as well as you're gonna do. Some things don't even stay for more than 3 weeks. So, do you agree with that, Connor? That like that ain't helping movie theaters at all. But as a consumer, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I
Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the movie, shall we? Connor, I like having you do these because you're really good at them. In case anybody needs it, give us like a 3-sentence synopsis of Wonder Woman 84.
So Wonder Woman 1984, or WW84, is...
It's like Independence Day. It's like ID4.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only title card we are given as an audience, so I'm just going to call it WW84. It picks up in 1984. We are following Diana Prince. I know, shocker. Would you believe it? Although, biggest mistake of this movie, there was not Warrior by Scandal, which came out in the summer of 84.
That's awesome.
But that was August of 84. This takes place around July 4th.
And August of... Well, some of it takes place on July 4th.
Yes.
Which was oddly inconvenient, but we'll talk about that. Oh, by the way, there's fireworks. It must be July 4th. But I was just going to mention I was actually born in August of that year, so I was born 1 month after the insane events of this film take place.
Wow, that's what the prequel Captain Logan movie was called, CL84.
Yeah, and half that movie will just be flashbacks where you find out what my parents wished for. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Wish that wasn't taken back, Captain Logan. So,
but what twisty cause?
God. So anyways, can I get my 30 seconds back?
Yes,
okay,
yes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. It's fine. This picks up in 1984 in Washington, D.C. Diana Prince, a.k.a. Wonder Woman, is still hiding in the shadows because we still got to pretend like this is a part of the DCEU. During a situation where she takes down a heist at a mall, there is a jewelry store that actually was a front for selling black market jewels and goods, and then they get sent to the Smithsonian, which, as it would happen, Diana Prince is a curator for, as well as Dr. Barbara Ann Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig. They strike up a bit of a acquaintance. Also, while this is happening, a Maxwell Lord, played by the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, he is a bit of a hack TV personality businessman, and he is trying to acquire something that was in that jewelry store black market thing that is now in the Smithsonian. It's a wishing rock, and then all three of these key characters make wishes. Kristen Wiig wants to be more like Diana, and that comes with more power than she thought it would. Diana wishes for Steve back. He comes back in an interesting way that I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. Then Maxwell Lord, end of Act 1, says, I want to be the wishing stone. It's never really clarified. I think he's had experience with the stone before, but then
I wasn't sure about that. I got the sense that at first that he knew what it was somehow, or I feel like you could watch it either way. It's either he somehow knows what that is, or he's like, that looks interesting, I'm going after that. I'm really not sure.
And so he wishes to be, he basically becomes a walking wish machine, and then he starts using that power to gain more and more political and world power, and it's up to Diana to stop it. However, unfortunately, because of the way the rock works, she's losing a bit of her power. You know, it's a bit of a monkey's paw curse we're dealing with here. You wish something, it taketh away. So that is Wonder Woman 84. So do you want to talk about how you felt about it? Do I need to talk about how do we do this again? It's been a while.
I like to make the other person go first.
All right. So I am going to say
Connor,
this.
how did you feel about Wonder Woman 1984?
Okay, so
Are you about to sing a song? Are you gonna like swoon us with that microphone? Look at that. I'm pretty sure that's a period microphone. He was like, I gotta go back and find one from 1984.
He looks like a game show host right now, the way he's...
He totally we're about to play the match game or Family Feud or something. Look at that microphone.
Let's see how well Cap and I can know each other.
Yeah. So, what year was Captain Logan born, DJ?
Oh, well, that's a gimme. That's Captain Logan 1984, man. That's the movie we're gonna be reviewing soon.
Right on, right on. Yeah. So,
the sequel takes place in 2063. It's called Old Man Captain Logan.
Old Man Captain Logan.
I gotta bring this up to the. I gotta maybe be a little casual, break the illusion, get the microphone in my hand a little bit. I kind of like this movie, and I kind of like this movie a lot. And I know that I am in the minority here. My back's up against the wall, and I don't give a crap. I really like this movie.
He's worried about cabbages. You notice that? He's like, he knows he's on a digital screen, and yet he's dodging things already.
It's always someone brings tomatoes every time.
Yeah. So I'll say this. I know that I'm in the minority here, and I've seen a lot of complaints and a lot of people saying what is breaking down what is wrong with this movie. You are not wrong. I still liked it though. And so let me say first and foremost, the thing I liked the most about this movie was that I felt what I guess I was missing that everybody else got out of that first movie. And I know that that sounds like kind of crazy. Some people will be like, but this movie didn't even have any of the spark of the original. But so with that first Wonder Woman movie, I saw it one time in theaters. I enjoyed it well enough, but not enough to ever revisit it. My brother dearly loves that movie, and he thinks I'm crazy for liking this movie more than the first one. But that first movie, I'm not a big fan of the Themyscira stuff. And likewise, I think the weakest part of this movie is the opening scene of this movie. And I know from based on what I've seen, that's the highlight of, it seems, everybody else's experience with this movie. But I got the heart, I got the wholesome kind of lighthearted, campy vibe that I kind of been missing in superhero stuff. And when it just comes down to the, lighthearted and campy in this way, in a Richard Donner style, I finally got the Donner comparisons. And I think that a lot of that comes down to, I think Patty Jenkins, even when she's working with, I guess, a disastrous production that I guess was spawned this movie, I didn't even realize it was such a bad production.
Yeah, I didn't know how.
Apparently, it was a disaster.
I knew there were some weird changes and things during it, but I didn't know that it was that it was tumultuous or anything.
Yeah, apparently the entire third act was reshot. There was like a lot of people screaming over just what the screenplay was even going to be about and how the screenplay was going to go. But I will say,
there was that weird rumor that the end of this movie was supposed to flashpoint the DC universe. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah, there was a rumor going around for a while that this would be the movie that would reset the timeline.
Oh.
Of course, that doesn't happen, but I wonder if that was ever in there, now that I know that it was crazy behind the scenes.
I see that Stefan Buni said that I'm a Lester fan. I've actually never seen any of the Superman films between Donner's original and Man of Steel. That's an entire dearth of superhero canon that I just am not familiar with. But if Lester's Superman movies are kind of like this, they're kind of bad but enjoyable.
That makes it even more interesting that you liked it as well as you did.
Interesting. Okay. So I'll say that there were key parts of this movie that kind of swept me up, and I enjoyed it. It felt very Silver Age in its tone, and I think it speaks volumes to Patty Jenkins' ability that I was able in her sleight of hand, because that's really what a lot of being a director is it's showing you things and kind of guiding you along, and don't look over there, look over here, and it's all manipulation. And I think that while I was watching it, I was completely tuned out to any of the flaws of the movie. And it wasn't until I finished it and started thinking about it that I thought, that actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I thought, I guess it doesn't make sense, but while I was watching it, I was liking it. And that speaks to a lot. And I think that the movie's biggest flaw, and I think that this will be the thing that I like the least, was the film's third act. It becomes basically a Jeff Johns comic book where powers are happening and wind is blowing and Max Lord is standing under a wind turbine so his hair's blowing up, just like every Jeff Johns comic book drawn by Yvonne Hees.
That's true.
And
everything he's saying is true.
I feel like it loses like the creative energy that it had, because that Egypt car chase was baller. It was awesome. The invisible jet was amazing. Like, I loved all that stuff, and I got swept up into the spectacle of it, and I really did enjoy this. Although you guys are going to spend the next however long we're going to be here breaking this apart and talking about how much it sucked, because I think DJ didn't like this movie at all. But I don't know. But I think that I can't argue with you guys, but I can say right now that I have the stage for the next 5 seconds, I liked it. Sorry.
Where's your green sign flip?
Where's your green sleeves?
Prop over there. I'll be right back in just 1 second.
He was like, I have a whole plan, and I'm like, well, where is
it? You built it up so much, man. We were high. Oh.
Okay, so I guess I've heard one person or two people say that you have to be on drugs to like this. So I have my dog's prescription.
Oh,
it's
no.
green. And, so bottoms up, gentlemen.
So you heard it here first, folks.
Geek Pollution does not endorse any type of drug or alcohol use to get through any kind of media.
But I am okay with people airing out any dirty laundry about their own personal lives if they want to. And what we've learned is that before Connor watches a film, he takes his dog's medication.
He takes his dog's meds.
Look, I got the whole '80s businessman thing going on right now. You gotta give me that, right? Like,
yeah, you really, man. I still say there is something that beard with that ensemble is reminding me of, and I just cannot place it. There is something.
Yeah, with the turtleneck, yeah. We'll find
said
it.
James Lipton earlier.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Now, Gal Gadot, tell me about the character of Wonder Woman. Go.
You did not take long enough of a pause.
Okay.
For James Lipton.
Noted.
Okay.
Oh my God! I feel like we should take some time and really appreciate this ensemble. All right, DJ, do you want to do a quick weigh in before I do my thing?
Yeah. Now that Connor has like outed me as a hater of this movie for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know why he thinks that, but.
And now he's gonna proceed to say, "But he was right." No, I'm kidding.
It's not that kind of movie, right? Like it's not a movie that you would like hate, even if you didn't enjoy it. I don't think the experience I had with it.
There are a lot of people who do.
Okay, well,
I've not jumped online and looked at hardly any reviews or consensus or anything, but just from friends of mine that have sent messages, especially the people that like it, have been like, why are people like wanting to scorch the earth over this movie? I don't understand. So yes, that is happening. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So and I was gonna say this. I'm completely like in the dark. Like I reached out to Cap yesterday to ask his opinion on it. Who was like the first person I even heard about it, because I'm home for Christmas. Like I'm not looking up anything. Like I just watched this with my wife, so I'm just talking about the experience I had with it. So this was a very, very weird experience with this movie. We turned it on and like. I don't know. I thought it was me. Like I thought I was in a bad mood, or like maybe the meds I was on for the pneumonia I just had was like making me. I wasn't enjoying anything like at all. And I had a hard time getting through it. We actually stopped it like halfway through, and then we had to finish it like that night. I was like dumbfounded by this movie. Like it felt. And I don't know if it was because I was watching on streaming and I was like adding into it or something. It felt like a straight to DVD movie for me. I don't know, like Aaron Dicer, I saw left a review on Letterboxd and it was perfect. He said, "Why does this feel like a Night at the Museum sequel?" And that's exactly how I felt. Like the opening scene with the Themyscira stuff, like the action is horrible and the effects when she's running through the obstacle course like really bad. And I was like, and I love the first movie. Me and Cap did a commentary on that and we were like singing the praises of that movie. So it was just really jarring to me. Like I felt like it was just meandering around and like nothing was hitting with me, and I was like, I don't know. It was a very strange experience. I didn't have any hate in me. Like I wasn't mad at the movie for like wasting my time, but like yeah, it wasn't clicking with me. So I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't have to pay for it because it was on streaming. So
that helps.
That was good. I would not have wanted to see it in the theater. I feel like I would have felt really awkward if I went to the theater and saw this movie.
Interesting that you say that, DJ, because I thought that it was a bummer that I couldn't see it in the theater, because I was thinking this would have played like gangbusters to me if I saw this.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I mean that's cool, man. I'm not attacking you.
Oh no, I'm not taking it as an attack at all.
Connor, real quick, let's go back to you for a second. Can you give us a best thing, worst thing?
Oh yeah, the best thing I think is oh crap, I feel like I said it already, but now I feel like I'm losing it.
Did you kind of?
Uh-oh. Hello?
We can hear you, Connor.
Okay, cool.
We can hear.
Yeah, hold on. I guess the best thing about this movie is that I enjoyed the direction, and I think that the action scenes in particular were creative. Specifically, that I liked the opening mall bit. I liked the car chase in Egypt, and I think that a lot of that comes down to the direction. And I thought that the way Patty Jenkins was made this movie feel like a Silver Age sort of comic book was a lot of fun. And I think that spinning whatever this is out of whatever she was given just I think kind of demonstrates that her talents as a director. And so I think that's the best thing about it. And I think the worst thing about the movie is the film's third act, and also the opening scene.
Which is interesting because that was my review of the first film. The worst thing about that movie is that ending and that really long, over the top, crazy, cheesy villain speech. And this movie does it again, like exactly the same thing, except a lot of people feel like we took the like weird cheese factor that we suddenly get hit over the head with at the end of that first movie, that it didn't totally warrant, except for maybe some of the villain stuff earlier with Dr. Poison and stuff, and then we just like made a whole movie out of it this time. and I see a little bit of that. DJ, did you have a best thing, worst thing, real quick? Because I'm curious to know, since you'd said you didn't really like much about this at all, what you would put in the best of category.
The best thing is probably like singular scenes. Like I really liked I did like I thought it was a little too short, but I did like the scene where she was learning to fly. And the like that kind of scene with that and like the fireworks scene I kind of liked. Just kind of like things taking out of context I liked. And then worst thing I think was just like I said, just the overall the tone of it, just like how, which I know is Connor's favorite thing, but like I just couldn't get invested in anything. I felt like everything was just kind of like just there was no heart to it. Like it was like super over the top and like campy, and it took away from everything that I liked about the first movie, where I really I loved her character and how like she was so charming in the first movie, and it felt everyone just had like a sheen of cheese over them in this movie that I couldn't get invested in the characters.
So this is going to be a very, very strange conversation, because if we had done this yesterday, this would have been a very different discussion, like a very different discussion.
Oh.
Connor, I wish we still did the boards, where we write, how we felt about it, because if I had to write a board right now, it would be watching this movie felt like staring at a Magic Eye puzzle. I went ahead and watched this again, and the first time I couldn't, it was like I couldn't see the picture, and the second time it came a little more into focus. It clicked a little more. I had a way better second experience with this movie.
That's good.
I think this required, at least for me, I mean, I don't want to put words in anybody else's mouth. And let me also say real quick, I don't think this movie is for everybody. One of the things I respect about it is that it's not all that concerned with being accessible. There are a lot of people that are not going to get what Jenkins is doing here, and I would understand. And I shared this definitely the first time I saw it. At least I'm kind of in the middle right now of figuring out still what I think about this. But like I think a lot of people would suggest that what Jenkins is trying to do with this movie is not warranted. Like, why would you go back and make a superhero movie exactly the way we did it in the 80s? We're past certain things that this movie is still doing, and it's like, is that even warranted? Is that even a thing that we should be doing? So, like, when I review a thing, I always say, I'm looking at what the piece is trying to accomplish and whether it's managing that. And then the third thing is, if that was a good idea in the first place. And this is the first movie in a long time where that third thing is the big question mark for me. Where I'm like, I don't know if this is what we ought to have done with this material. It's weird as a sequel. DJ, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is if I had seen this, my first viewing, and it was the first movie she'd made, I think I would have liked it a lot better, but I was, especially on a first viewing, having a hard time reconciling this with the first movie as even being, like, in the same continuity and the same character and stuff. But what I was going to say a minute ago is, this for me, it has a couple of prerequisites. The first one is you need to be familiar with 80s superhero movies, but obviously particularly the Donner Superman films, but like not just the first Donner film, but also Lester. And I think it's really interesting that Conner liked this as well as he did, not seeing the Lester in it, because a lot of the things this movie is doing, you could get away with in the 80s, but again, we're past those things now, and I don't know how you put this movie together and you don't expect the majority of people not to like it, because superhero movies have been, like, more, to a lot of people, like, real cinema for the last decade or more, and people really do look at them with a fine-tooth comb and expect them to make sense and be serious to some degree, and even when they're supposed to be, like, fun and hokey and stuff, they expect an internal logic, and this movie, weirdly, holds together really well plot-wise. It helps that it starts with what I think is kind of a Saturday morning cartoon premise. And then, as it goes along, like Conner, you said, you know, maybe it doesn't make sense. I think the skeleton of the story absolutely makes sense. But there's some internal logic issues that I think it thinks it can get away with just because, well, it's doing it the 80s way. And it was okay to do that stuff back then. So that's what we're doing. And I just can't decide how I feel about that choice. But I didn't like it at all on my first viewing, because it wasn't what I expected and it wasn't what I wanted, and I found it impossible to look at it on its own terms. And on a second viewing, I was starting to get more of not just what Jenkins was doing with the 80s stuff. Like, I saw some people in the comments earlier say, there's no reason this movie had to be set in the 80s. I said exactly the same thing after the first viewing. I got a whole laundry list of reasons after seeing it a second time that the 80s is the only time you could have told this story.
Yeah, I love the choice of the 80s, and especially comparing this to Apocalypse, it's night and day.
It's night and day, yeah. Well, Apocalypse really didn't need to be set. There was no reason, and neither did, you know, Dark Phoenix in the 90s. But, so a couple prerequisites, like I said. The first is, I just think this is for people, there is maybe too much of a nostalgia fix with this, where I don't know that, and again, I don't put words in anybody's mouths, I don't know that you're going to get this and appreciate this if you're not familiar with that era of stuff. And the second prerequisite is, you need to have seen this movie a first time.
You got to get it out of your system.
I think you gotta live with it for a little bit. I was not remotely prepared for this. Worst thing about this movie, as a lot of people have said, of course, and I hate that we're getting to this as late as we are, as I was out of town and stuff, is of course the length. After the first viewing, I said there's no reason this movie couldn't have been an hour and a half, hour 45. Like, I feel like especially just with the basic premise of this movie and even the skeleton of the story, how is this a 2.5 hour film? I think you see that runtime and you expect epic and serious and, like, important or something, and this is the antithesis of all of that. This movie is about some stuff, certainly, and we can discuss whether or not we think the moral is heavy-handed. I didn't like that it was spelled out to us as much as it was on first viewing. And the second time around, and I still don't like that, I realized that there's more to it than I was picking up on the first place, and if only we hadn't overwritten the moral of the story, I'd see what the more, nuanced, interesting moral is, because it's better than I gave it credit for first time around, I think. But yeah, so length is definitely the worst thing. Seeing it again, it's paced like the kinds of movies it's wanting to be. I mean, she really gets Donner. And there's a part of me now that I've seen it a second time and I have adjusted to it. And I don't feel like I've lowered my standards so much as adjusted to the thing she was trying to make, right? Like I think those are different things. But she gets Donner in this period of films a lot better than Bryan Singer did. Because he made a really cynical movie that was also, I think, slow and boring, and there wasn't enough going on. And this, it's so weird. There are scenes that go on too long, but I can't say boring. I don't know how to even describe this pacing. It's just paced like those movies were, except it is longer than them. It should have been shorter. It's still at least half an hour too long. But I don't think with the story she's telling, it makes any sense for this to be more than an hour 45. So I don't know. That's the big thing for me. I have all kinds of questions and internal logic things, and I want to get to those because it will be fun to do that. But best thing, I'm going to go for, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, because it didn't do anything for me the first time around, but it was different the second time around. I liked the wide-eyed, wondrous, I'm just glad to be alive performance from Chris Pine. Second time around, I really enjoyed that, and I was, there was maybe a little bit too much, again, first time out at least, of parachute pants, and that's a trash can, but I did enjoy his just the flip of the first movie where now he's the fish out of water. That's kind of fun, and I don't think any of that would have been warranted and been as much fun to watch if he had stuck around. I guess we're getting into spoiler territory now, but bringing him back the way we brought him back, as much as I was not excited about a MacGuffin plot, and that turned me off to the point where I couldn't really see what the movie was doing initially, because I'm like, oh really? We're just gonna do a genie wishes thing? Okay, all right. But I don't know. It was clever, and they had more fun with it than I gave it credit for the first time around. So I don't know. Yesterday it would have been a hard red, and now it's a somewhat soft green, and I can't believe I'm doing that. But yeah, it's a soft green now. It turned me around.
Wow, you did turn around completely.
This is the biggest turnaround for me since BVS, but the other direction, where the first time out I was like, I think I like this movie. I don't know, and then I was like, what was I talking about? And this was a little bit of the flip of that. But like I said, my feelings on this are evolving. So I'm going to watch this again later in the week with my family, and it's possible that we're not going to, but if I made even another video about this, it could be like, well, now, but at the moment, I don't know. I've flipped a little bit, and I know there's some people in the comments that are going to think I'm an insane person, but I don't know. Anyway, so we'll talk some ins and outs, but
yeah, that's awesome. No, that totally makes sense that it's a movie that you need to know what you're in for going in. Because I was not. I figured it was going to be like the Winter Soldier thing, where it was a completely different genre from the first one, like Captain America did, but I wasn't expecting it to be like a completely different era of filmmaking. I don't know. Yeah. It was weird.
Well, it makes me wonder if that first movie was more actually intended to throw back more to serials and things than it really did, right? Because that movie felt like a modern movie that is a period piece. There's a big distinction that was also trying to marry in some tropes and stuff from 30s and 40s cinema, and that stuff was few and far between. It wasn't exactly that kind of movie, but there was some cheese factor in there, certainly. And then this movie just doubled down on all of that, and I wasn't expecting that at all. Yeah, it's very different from Winter Soldier in that is a different genre of movie that still feels like the same character in the same universe. We're just later now, and we're telling a spy thriller story now. Yeah.
Well, and that makes perfect sense that you're saying that, because that was one thing. As I knew people were going to say, like, the first one's super cheesy too. Like, you got the villains like when they're like gassing the people.
That's the main thing I was alluding to. Yeah.
So that's what I couldn't even reconcile that with myself. I was like, why do I like the first one so much? It's got that like Captain America: First Avenger like Rocketeer kind of cheese to it. But if she did what you're saying, and it's the actual like how the movie is made, then yeah, I can see why that felt weirder to me watching it than a movie that's kind of made like modern movies, but just with that.
It's playing with a different set of rules, but because that opening scene is so long, it cannot begin to telegraph that to you. So you're way more jarred than you would be. Like, remember how Amazing Spider-Man opens? It kind of has this too, except even the opening scene with like the parents in the airplane and stuff is pretty over the top, right? But then it does that insane like truck chase thing with the rhino, and you're like, what am I watching? Like, this is not what that first movie was. Well, this is that first movie for like 20 minutes. And Connor, I'm with you. Like, I think that opening scene is too long, and it's not great either, but like it feels like it's in that same universe. And then you get that crazy mall scene. You just have this huge adjustment you have to make where it's like, oh, okay, so like this is going to be this absurd and over the top. And I couldn't see any of the nuance in performances or anything until I saw it a second time. And I think there is some, but I think you got to see it twice.
And I didn't think.
But Connor did not see it twice. But that's how I feel about it.
Do you guys think that we needed that Themyscira scene at all? I think it was completely.
Yes.
I get what they're trying to do.
But it should have been 4 minutes long.
But it only connects because she like cheated in the race, and then she has to learn that she can't lie. Like, that was such a weird way to like. There had to be a better way to connect that theme than.
I don't agree.
Obstacle course.
Sorry, Connor. Let me say this real fast. What I like about it is she has this very particular code of ethics, and we get to see a scene that that epitomizes that and shows you part of where it comes from. So personal experience. And so when she has a character arc where she has to kind of learn it again because she's faced with you can take the easy path and have the only thing in the world you want, or you can do what you were taught. I think it's better to be able to appreciate where that comes from. Like, on first viewing, I thought the same thing you did. I thought it was just a really cheap, easy way to get to establish what the themes of the narrative were going to be. But it's as much about establishing her character arc and where her whole mantra comes from. And also, I made the mistake of watching this on a really small screen the first time, and I won't do that again, because I think seeing it on a projector, and I didn't go to the theater, but seeing it on a much larger screen made part of the difference too. And I missed a couple things, I think, visually with that opening scene. So I thought the first time around, and I would have said this if we did this review yesterday, Connor, I thought first time around that opening scene was kind of arbitrary, where it was like, couldn't her mother just, Hippolyta, couldn't she just as easily have said, good job, Diana, you used, your resourcefulness and you were able to, get there first. And like, I was like, how is it cheating? And then watching it again, I realized, oh, wait, no, she literally cheated. Like, it wasn't just that she was able to take a shortcut, because I don't know what the rules are. So I was like, well, what's wrong with the shortcut? Like, she can't get back on her horse and get... But you're supposed to shoot all the circles, and she missed a circle and then tried to get there anyway. But I don't know why why Hippolyta had to stop her at the end, because, like she failed anyway, right? Like, they wouldn't have considered her the winner anyway. I don't know.
You didn't even do the thing. It was so awkward where she was like arguing with her, like, no, I can make it, but like, you didn't even do the thing.
But at least on a second viewing, I agreed that it was cheating.
Yeah.
Well, what I liked about like what that establishes is that you're right, like, it's a part of like things that you're taught, and that the whole idea of like not cheating and like actually like, you know, working to earn whatever. Like those are like just kind of truisms about the world or whatever. But they're also not, it's like the way it's presented in this movie is not exactly something you're used to seeing in like movies, I guess, like especially like as you're like getting older and like in entertainment, like, and like by the time you're like a teenager, you're kind of expected to know this, but like people like Maxwell Lord do cheat and try to get ahead in the world. And you find out like he didn't have somebody to just tell him a basic truth about the world when he was young, and that's why he is the way he is. And so it's like, and it's not like what no, I don't think anybody like either of you like are gonna get this reference, but like when I was a kid, I watched Bionicle Mask of Light. All right, and that movie was stupid to me when I was a kid because it was like this kid is bad at this sport, and then at the end he's got to be better at the sport to beat the bad guy and save the village or something. I watched it once when I was a kid, and I was expecting like that opening scene to set up something like that where, oh man, she didn't do it the right, you know, she cheated and that's how she lost, but at the end she's gonna cheat and it'll win this time because somehow it's gonna be like different or whatever, and this time the rules call for cheating, and I was gonna be like, okay, yeah, great, whatever. But then it wasn't that, and like I liked how it wasn't like that opening is more connected in a thematic sense and in a character sense and in like a literal plot way, and that's what I kind of was actually able to appreciate about the opening moving forward. That being said, like DJ, I was not into the action filmmaking element of it. I thought it was kind of fell flat to me, and which is interesting because I think a lot of the other action scenes outside of the third act are really good.
It was too video gamey. Like I didn't feel like they were in a space.
It was so like it was how do you make a race not exciting? Like they weren't next to each other. Like they were just like the girls
and it
were
doesn't
way
help.
behind.
And this is Eric's point. By the way, Eric loves this movie and is kind of disappointed that people are disappointed. But he made this point, and I had this thought too. He said, I just don't buy that, regardless of the fact that they're all Amazons, that little girl can keep pace with all those teenagers. Like, she's got 9-year-old legs, and why is she in the race anyway?
That's weird.
So here's what I was just assuming based on what I was presented with the first time out. I was thinking, oh, they're all kind of like they're pandering to her because like, oh, she's a little kid, haha, let's make her feel included or whatever. And then she actually like gets on one of the horses, and I'm like, oh, she's actually like in it. Oh, what? And then she like pulls up and she like shoots the bow and arrow, and it hits like the little blue thingy, and it sends up a blue smoke. And I thought, so how do they know she's the blue one? What if she's like a child and like accidentally goes whoops and then hits the red one? Like, what happens then?
I've never seen that before, where it's like you've got the gladiatorial games, and because people were wondering where that was in the first movie, and at the very start of this, I was like, oh, they're tacking this on because they didn't have the trials in the first movie, and then it's not exactly the trials. Like, I don't even know totally what the point of it was, but like, did all the other girls do that when they were that little? And is the reason that she has to be a kid there instead of just, you know, casting a teenager or young 20s actress because they had that cute kid in the first movie and everybody liked her? Like, I don't know why she was that young. I feel like that exact point for her character arc could have been made a later time in her life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Well, there wasn't there are no other kids, because remember in the first movie she's the only baby that they have.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So the other ones are always women. So they weren't teenagers either. They were just like women.
Right. Just women. Okay, but then just wait till she gets older. Like.
And that's what it seemed to happen in the first movie. Like,
no, I forgot that I knew they didn't age, but I forgot that they didn't even. Okay. All right.
But does Diana age at a slower rate than everybody? Is she like actually 87 in that?
I think
is she Baby Yoda? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she's like Aragorn, where she's no, well, okay, never mind. But actually, regarding the length and Lord of the Rings, I think I was like, it does feel like 2.5 hours, and my family did take an intermission. But I also spent the beginning of last week watching all of the Lord of the Rings extended editions. So the idea of a long movie was just like, yeah, this is just the way movies are now.
Sure.
And so the next movie I watched was Wonder Woman 84, and I thought, oh, okay, it feels like 2.5 hours. And then I heard a lot of people like, this is one of the chief criticisms I'm hearing from like across the board, is that it's way too long. And I feel like when I rewatch
people that like it are saying that, I'm finding.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, is like, I am sure when I rewatch this movie, I will not like it as much as I do now. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this on one viewing, is because I wanted to make sure that this was true to that first viewing.
I couldn't believe how much more I liked it on a second viewing. It's weird. And of course, I have had this before. I mean, I've had this both ways, where you'll watch a thing and you thought it was pretty good, and then all the seams start to show. Or you'll watch a thing and you thought and you had some hang up, and so you missed some of the stuff that would have resonated with you, because I just didn't think that this story resonated at all. And then I saw it again and I was like, nah, there's some important stuff being said here, but also in the context of a really escapist movie, and I miss that. And like, that's one of the things that, again, on a second viewing, I really appreciated, was I was like, for better or worse, we don't make movies like this anymore, and I think she made this too much like those movies. I really do. I think she did too good of a job of that. But it kind of proved. Here's what I like about it. Can I get the elephant in the room out of the way real quick? I was put off by, initially, first viewing, and I knew they were doing this, but I was still put off by it. The very obvious, like, not even thinly veiled, like, Trump analog of the whole thing, right? And seeing it again, I went, no, you know what? She's saying something about the fact that everybody in the last 4 years has been making, has to put, like, Trump allegory, Trump analog in everything. She's going, you can talk about current topical issues and still have a good time, and still not leave people out, and still not be, like intentionally polarizing or even political. Like, this is not a political movie. It's about the character that you see in people, in characters like Donald Trump, before it's about the political divide and all of that. And seeing it a second time, I really appreciated that she was able to go there and still make something this light. Am I crazy? Like, that was one of the big things I ended up kind of appreciating about it.
That's the thing I liked about setting this in the 80s, is that where we are now in like current affairs is largely built on what happened in the 80s, and like the decadence and the obscene amount of like wealth spending and like kind of uncontrolled like regulations that were going on, because of like what was going on in the 80s. Like, there was a level of enjoyment that people were able to have at the expense of us now. And so I think that having that character and like the wishing rock being a metaphor for just the zeitgeist of 1980s consumer culture was actually a pretty neat concept. And it is, then this is where like the escapist fantasy element does come from, is having like everybody just at the end refutes their wishes and it all goes back to normal and everything. And it's like, yeah, okay, but 2020 is still 2020, even if 1984 like had wishes revoked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I feel like at the end there is stuff that like doesn't go together on like a thematic message level. But I think you're right in the sense that like the plot skeleton, I think, is like, it jumps from one event to the other in a way that I found to be pretty organic and not hackneyed.
It wants to be its own standalone piece, so it's not about what happens later so much as it's about, like, in an over-the-top, fun, cheesy way, how we in the real world got there, right? So it's trying to be optimistic at the same time as it's dealing, and that's really hard to do with where we're at in how divided the society is now, and in how, you know, kind of overly narcissistic the culture is. And that's part of why I say you can't tell this story now, because we are overall too much of a, you know, self-absorbed narcissistic culture, and that was the materialism that got us there, or that started us on that path. And I said after seeing it the first time to the couple of people I talked to about this that I wished it had taken the 80s materialism more to the fore. On the second viewing, I saw more of it. I thought it really was quite a bit about that, and just this idea of get everything you can while while you can, and don't work for anything and hope for the best and assume that if you assume that there are no consequences, there won't be. Somebody in the comments a minute ago said, I think it was Mutale, that Lord didn't feel like Trump at all. That's kind of my point, is that there are a lot of really clear, if you know anything about Donald Trump, the man, there are a whole lot of little pieces of background and character traits and stuff that they put in this guy, but he's a different character. Like, it is an analog before it's just, let's throw that guy in your face one more time and show you how scary and evil we think he is. It isn't that. We started from that place, and then we created a different, whether you like Maxwell Lord in this movie or not, we created a different character out of that guy, and a guy that, I guess by the end, at least in the context of really cheesy 80s movie, I buy that this guy maybe would actually be able to be redeemed in some way at the end. Whereas if they had gone like, here's a really scary, let's do the obvious social commentary thing and create a guy who is like so evil in the way he's about himself that there's no chance that he could be redeemed. That ending is a lot harder to swallow. But like, we established very early that this guy really does actually care about his kid and stuff. And his background is very, very different, of course, from the Donald Trump background. But there are, I mean, I don't feel the need to go down a list, but there are, at least a dozen things that they pulled directly out of that guy's background. And, again, as always, I don't want to get political, but I feel like I have to bring that up because clearly that's what the movie's doing, right? Like,
yeah. I think that what I like about, like, you're talking about Patty Jenkins' optimism here, and what I like about what she's trying to do here, and I also, like, you're right, like, Maxwell Lord is a character in the movie, but like,
yeah,
I mean, he's based on Donald Trump, and that's just kind of the truth of it. Like the same way Michael Douglas in Wall Street is based on like actual people that existed in like the 80s. Like, yeah, okay, Gordon Gekko isn't literally these other people, but he's based on them.
Well, a few people in the comments are saying that he has nothing to do at all with Trump. But first of all, I think Jenkins herself came out before the movie came out and said that he was partially based on him. But also, he comes right out several times and says, like, power of positive thinking. That's Trump's whole thing. Like,
yeah, and like, there's been histories about Trump's bankrupt companies and like where like his company is,
and
like
Ponzi schemes, and he's
on TV.
Yeah, and he's pretending like he has wealth that he doesn't have, and he's got a kid that he kind of ignores, except in this case he actually really seems to care about him more than some people think that Trump cares about some of his kids. This is not about any of our opinions of that guy, by the way, but I can't not mention that because that's clearly what it's doing. But I don't know, like, I don't see, with respect to everybody, I don't see how you could say that this has nothing to do with that guy. And like, he builds a wall that seems pretty intentional to me.
Well,
yeah,
okay, and that's actually one thing that, like, after I watched it, I was like, wait, hold up, was all the stuff in like Egypt? But there's a thing that what I like about Patty Jenkins with like her, like you talking about like her optimism, is that I like what she's saying is that people, like, if you don't like Donald Trump, people like Donald Trump are the way they are for a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason is, like, you could X, Y, or Z, and the way you and her thesis on how you stop people like that is by having love and truth and all this Wonder Woman stuff. I feel like that's what she's trying to do. And compared to a lot of other, more like Vice-styled films, which I found to be a very obnoxious,
yeah,
movie.
I know you didn't like that.
And believe me, I'm no fan of Dick Cheney, but man, that movie was bad. But like but like compared to something like Vice, this thing I thought was just on a like philosophical level. I was like, yeah, I think this is more in line with something that I would be down for. I'm sorry, you said since. Oh yeah, can we talk about like the Egypt thing?
Real quick before you do that, I want to answer something in the comments, and at some point we'll start to actually do that on purpose. But just because this is kind of related, Mutali said, "Is the president in this supposed to be Reagan?" I looked into this, and no, he's not. I'm hearing a lot of people going, that's the worst Reagan I've ever seen. That's because it's a generic, unnamed president. And it's not just that they don't name him in the movie. Look at IMDb, look at Wikipedia. He's not named in the script anywhere either. He's referred to as the President of the United States or as POTUS. And I think that is Jenkins probably going out of her way not to look like she is like worshiping or condemning anybody from history, in the same way that she's taking some, again, I think, clear Trump things and making a new character out of it. She goes far enough in that it's going to turn a lot of people off, I think. But I don't think that she wanted to just put Reagan in this because that might have cemented this. This is only for one side of the aisle and everybody else can go to hell. And I respect that. I really appreciate that she's not trying to push anybody out of the theater. At the same time, it's weird to do a piece set in a specific year like this, and your president is not Reagan. Just don't go to the White House. Just don't do that. But the problem is, she wants to remake Superman 2, so we have to go to the White House. And I have a whole bunch of stuff about Superman 2, by the way. But that's one of the big things is, but it's Superman 2. We have to go to the White House.
No, but it's DC. Like,
okay,
they have
yeah.
generic presidents, though. That's what I like about it.
But don't bring up the Star Wars program then. Like,
okay, that's true.
Right? Like, it's weird. It's like, okay, did this guy beat Reagan at some point? Like, I don't understand. What is happening?
So here's something I actually was I thought this was a missed opportunity. I thought, what is the point? Like, you're calling it Wonder Woman 1984. Obviously, the George Orwell connection is the most obvious one I was making anyways. Like, and they start talking about like this.
I didn't even think of that, but duh.
I was like, are they gonna do Brother Eye, Big Brother, Eye? Or they didn't go like, oh man.
I guess my brain didn't go there because they didn't make a cynical or dystopian piece, but I guess it would have kind of been that way if that guy had, won. I guess.
Yeah, but so can we talk about like the stuff in Egypt, because that's like the part of the movie that like in retrospect doesn't really hold up to me.
Yeah.
Or when you go in a different direction.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So one thing I liked is that when like early on, it's all about like these wishes, and they're all these very personal, just sort of, I wish I had $1 million. Hey, But then when you go to like a world leader, like the way Maxwell Lord does, and I know he's just an oil guy, but when you have that much money and you're like at the top of that kind of an industry, you have world power, and you do have like a level of influence on a global scale. And then that is sort of where the movie starts to address like geopolitical concerns of like, you start wishing for things, like a person who has that much power, like their wishes are going to be bigger than like Diana's are. And so then it's like it addresses that, and I like how it almost like was like going to be subversively like, oh, this is going to get like a lot more like serious on just like oh crap, all the red lines of like political stuff is going to happen, and then we get the hell out of Dodge. Not in a Dodge, but in a Jeep. And then like
it stays in satire or just almost, I don't want to say farce territory, but like
it is almost entirely dropped, except for like some cutaway scenes in the third act. Like there's like a serious thing going on in Egypt.
The Cold War is in the background because everybody has more nukes than they've ever had before, but we're not really dealing with that.
Yeah, and then like, but I also liked how
nukes are literally just appearing.
Yeah, I know.
I loved that. That was great. But I don't know. I think that just in terms of, it seems like it's going to go down a certain direction, and I think that for us, like, we're talking about how we appreciate some of the nuance that we're trying to like approach here. It seemed a little weird for me that like the people in like Egypt are like the most stereotypical Egyptian people I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
it's an 80s movie, man.
But exactly, and I don't think any of the nuance is in social commentary or geopolitical stuff. It's all in, and I use the word nuance pretty loosely here, but it's in the personal stuff. It's in the larger lesson that Diana has to. I mean, it's funny because like it's not even that she has to learn a lesson so much as just live up to her own standards of morality. I really like that. This is like the Captain America thing pushed as far as you can possibly push it, where it's like, She usually refuses to budge at all on her principles, but this is like the one thing she wants, so she hangs on to it for as long as possible, and then goes, "Yeah, but see, I'm not a superhero if I do that." And it's you know, it's kind of a bad idea to A, not have my powers and not be able to be responsible, but B, I'm not living up to the ideals that I'm, you know, pushing on everybody else, or not pushing on people, but at least, you know, upholding, right? But I said earlier, let me get this out of the way. I said earlier that I thought that the moral was kind of if not heavy-handed, just in our face too much, just spelled out over and over again. You know, nothing good comes from lies. Take that line out, and it's immediately like a 0.5 up for me on the rewind scale, probably. Like, because that's not even entirely what that's too basic. It's too overly simplified. That's not really what the movie's about. The movie's about not taking shortcuts. It's about how. And it's a universal lesson, and we don't hear it enough anymore. And I think it's common sense, and I think kids need to see it more. It's the idea that you can't that like there are consequences to everything, and it's not just that you have to work hard to get things that you want, but it's also appreciating what you have already and realizing that very often it's going to be difficult, but there is probably some kind of a path that if you would just like pay attention to your life and look for opportunities for yourself to get to what it is that you want. And also very often, if you don't have what you want right now, it's because you're not ready for it. And if somebody handed it to you, you wouldn't know what to do with it. That's a wonderful moral lesson in a superhero movie. We don't see nearly enough of that. And yeah, like, I hardly picked up on that the first time because I got really sick of people saying nothing good comes from lies. That doesn't resonate with me at all.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to get to earlier when I said that it didn't really gel with the opening scene. It's not that it didn't. It was because it's not... They spelled it out like wrong. Like it's not about just like don't tell lies. Like that's not the message. It's about cheating at life, like you said. Like that fits much better with the opening scene, and it was really weird in that third act with the way they handled that. I don't know. That's why it was so jarring, and like like you said, they spelled it out way more than they had to, and then they like spelled it wrong.
Yeah. Well, and like I was taken out right at the beginning and was having a hard time getting into it because I hated that opening voiceover. Like, take that out, and I don't know. This is one of those rare movies, Connor, where there is a much better cut to be had by taking a bunch out of this movie.
Yeah, I think with Justice League, the better cut is when you remove 2 hours of the theatrical cut, and that's how you cure Justice League.
Well, if I can, Cap, there's a lot of people talking about this in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
The whole time we've been going, and I wanted to talk about this too because it goes along with what we've been talking about it being an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Do you think that extends to, because I had a big problem with this, and I'm sure you did the first time you watched it, the whole Steve Trevor thing and how that body switch thing is something we would do in the 80s and not even think about. We wouldn't think about the consequences. We wouldn't. It's just like, it's a goofy movie thing. We switch places, and that guy doesn't matter because he's not a real character. But like, and that might be what she was thinking when she was making this movie, and it might be okay from that perspective. But like, a lot of people have lots of problems with her, and that's the thing. If you're thinking of Diana as the character from the first movie, it's kind of hard to think that she would just be as okay with that as she is.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. So it's not just Diana from the first movie, it's also Diana from this movie, because I thought they were kind of two different characters first time watching it because I was so put off by that whole thing. That's we have in that way, if you read into it far enough, the kind of two Batmans thing you have in BVS. The deal is that for me falls into the category of things that weren't even a good idea in the 80s, and I wish we hadn't done it back then either. I always complain about the magic kiss at the end of Superman 2. It's dumb. We never should have done that. Just because people didn't complain about it back then doesn't mean that it was even a good idea then. And like the, give a character whatever powers they need in the moment to get through whatever problem they're dealing with. this is broaching that. This goes to that place too. I always hated that with Superman 2. That's a thing Donner never would have done. People look at that as the way we made Superman movies back in the 80s. Nuh-uh, because Donner didn't do it. That was a Lester thing. So those two things are and the Magic Kiss is also Lester. Those are two things where this is Richard Lester's Wonder Woman, and I think it's weird that Jenkins seems to have as much reverence for the Lester stuff as she does the Donner stuff. That's not just the 80s, that's Lester being weird with the way he's making movies. I can't reconcile that. I really can't. That's one of my biggest issues. I said the biggest problem for me is the length. This is right up there, right next to it. Saddled right there. You can't have this woman who is constantly talking about responsibility and altruism and always doing the right thing, sleep with a guy that she's never met who has no like control of his own faculties just because Steve Trevor has taken over his body, and have no conversation about that. The next morning, she's just like, okay, I'd love to just stay here all day, but we really should go find out why you're in this guy's body. That's the closest we get to, this guy also has a life, and you kind of, like, there's no conversation. Sleeping with him is weird, but even beyond that, there's also just, there's no conversation between her and Steve about how they're stealing this guy's life from him as long as he is in that guy's body. So when Steve finally convinces her to recant her wish and everything, it's not there's no talk about how we've stolen this guy's life from him. It's just your powers are gone and it's bad for the world. Like, okay, that's part of it, but also what about that guy? So yeah, seriously. I didn't like that at all. It doesn't work. It's weird, kooky 80s stuff, and like that's charming for a second until you think about the ethics of it. And I don't think it's reading too far into it to say that is a huge ethical problem. And it's not just 80s superhero movie making. It's also like CW current superhero making, TV making. And I don't give them a pass for it. So just because she's making a movie that, and that's, I don't know, everybody's going to draw their line in different places. That's where I draw that line. That's where I say, I don't think, you don't have to make a straight up modern movie necessarily. Like, it's fun to go back and kind of try to make, a movie the way we would have done it in the 80s. But especially because in your continuity, the first thing you did was a modern movie. That makes that way, way weirder. I don't know. That's where I draw the line. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, I pretty much co-sign what you just said. It's weird. And I think the weirdest thing, though, is, like, he's literally in somebody else's body, and, like, he even says, so I'm another guy, right? And she just goes, I only see you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but, like, you don't literally only
yeah,
see
she literally sees that guy. It's not like she can, like, push it out of her mind and, like, forget about it and enjoy the time with him. She sees him every time she looks at him. She
Especially
knows
because in that same moment she says, no, he looks pretty good. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but all I see is you. It's in the same sentence. So we know that she's actually seeing him, which makes a scene where Chris Pine... See, people in the comments, because I flip my sign green, are expecting me to say nothing negative about this movie. Oh, I've got all kinds of stuff. I just actually had fun watching it last time and got something out of it, which I was excited about. But no, I got plenty of blasting to do. So Chris Pine, for a, like, 3-minute sequence, is putting on all these different outfits, but it's not actually Chris Pine doing it, so it's weird and awkward. It's like, how does Chris Pine look at this? Who cares? He's not there. Like,
yeah, and this has been, I've seen this in the comments, and I've just seen this thing everywhere. It's like, okay, so, like, nukes are literally appearing everywhere, but Chris Pine isn't. Why?
Yeah, and why?
Yeah, I don't get that.
When we get to the end, you can make things appear and disappear. Okay, let's get into this.
It's the most arbitrary magic stone in history.
Yeah, why does that stone... I'm glad you said that, Connor, because I was afraid I was going to have to fight you on this point. That stone interprets stuff however the heck it wants to. And
well, it is Max Lord. Well, before Max
It does that before that! It does it with Max Lord! Okay, so Max Lord looks at the stone and he goes, I want you to make me the stone! And if it did, literally, what that means, you have no movie! The movie is over!
It's like edible States of America, where it's
yeah,
just a rock, arms and legs running around. Like
and there are places in the movie where people have to be more specific than that, where they'll give like a laundry list of the thing to tell the stone. But that's a place where I guess the stone you can just read his mind and knows exactly what he wants. And I like,
yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Diana literally wish, man, I wish he really came back in another guy's body right about now.
Yeah, and also, does it change that movie in any way, like the stakes or the character arc? But no. But what I'm saying is, would it have changed the movie at all if just Steve Trevor showed up? Like,
oh no,
why did he need to be in somebody? It's like it feels like he's there just because for some reason we need them to sleep together in a set that's not her house. But why not? Why couldn't it just be her house? Why doesn't she just? And also, I watched this twice and I didn't get this. Maybe I just missed something. What's the deal with the watch? Can somebody explain the watch to me?
I don't get it.
Where he gives her the watch and said he. That's just what he does at the end of the first movie. He just gives her the watch and says that line.
I know, but we zoom in on the watch as if it has some sort of significance to his returning, and I didn't know what that was about.
That was just that guy's watch, right? I don't think it was some like.
Okay.
Yeah, it was some special watch.
I don't really know what the point of that was. But yeah, no, that was preposterous. I also wish she had gone a little bit farther with their relationship, because people in the comments are talking about how selfish she was. She did not have to. For the character arc to work, she has to be selfish to some degree, but in the same way that Superman was in Superman 2. She's doing that again, right? This is the other place where it's just like Superman 2. The idea is you give up your powers in order to be with the person you love and you stop being a superhero. You would have bordered on just ripping that movie off if you had gone all the way with it, but I actually think it'd be a better movie if we did. And also it would have made more sense than it did in Superman 2, because you have it is a plot device, but at least I have an explanation for both how she lost her powers and how she got them back. Because in Superman 2, we're told you can do this one time in the fortress, you lose your powers, that's it. And then when he decides he wants his powers back, he goes back to the fortress, gets them back. Doesn't make any sense. But with this movie, we would have a reason for it. It would make sense, as much as it's going to, with this, easy MacGuffin thing. And so I thought it would have been, and I don't want to rewrite the movie, but I kind of wish instead of them going on adventures and trying to do all of this investigating, that it was just they run off together and they think about having a life together, and then she sees all the horrible things that are happening and she has to give up her powers for it, and you make Superman 2 better than Superman 2. That seemed like the logical place to take that to me.
That's true. But you also wouldn't have had that awesome Egypt chase scene. So, no, but you're right. Like on a story level, that does hold up better. I think that when it comes to, I think I lost my train of thought. Never mind. Never mind.
I'm sorry. Can you guys give me 1 second? I'm having headphones issues here.
Oh.
Well, hey, DJ, you know what? Yesterday I watched a couple of movies, and they had cameos by Gal Gadot. It was bizarre.
Wow.
They were both in 2010, too, so it was like Date Night with Steve Carell and Tina Fey. She showed up for, a scene. It was
she's
wild.
in that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that movie.
She's the woman that Mark Wahlberg has over at his place.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. We go see Mark Wahlberg. And the other one I saw was... it's a James Mangold film. It's the Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz vehicle, Night and Day. Terrible movie. And Gal Gadot is in one scene of that movie. So, yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was kind of funny. And sorry, are we all good?
We're good now. Yeah, thanks. Tyler in the comments just said if they did the plastic Wonder Woman symbol, that would have been amazing. I would have loved that. Just in the third act, she goes up to Maxwell Lord, and instead of throwing the lasso and then talking to the audience all across the world, she just threw a big giant plastic W on him.
Well, I was gonna say this. I feel like now that Cap has blown my mind with this this whole interpretation of the movie, like I feel like she extended her 80s-ness to even how she shot the action in this movie.
Yeah, she did.
Because it was super cheesy. Like when Wonder Woman swings
That's
down
all
and picks
intentional.
up...
Like people that are complaining that it looks cheesy and some of it doesn't look like it's really there and stuff. Like some of the CG is a little shoddy toward the beginning, but we're doing more practical stuff at the end with the like really big set pieces with like all the a big staple of action movies in the 80s is huge traffic jams at the end. And we had to have one of those here. So like if you're not liking that, this movie's not for you. Like that stuff's all on purpose.
Well, just like when she swings down and saves the kids in the street, like Tobey Maguire, and then like she falls over and they look like she's got like dolls in her hands,
yeah.
And it looks hilarious. But I guess that's what she's going for.
I think that's intentional. Like you're either gonna like that or you're not. The thing is, this is a big, huge blockbuster for DC. It's the second movie they put out this year, and the other one, a lot of people didn't really care for. I don't say most. I guess I don't know. A lot of people didn't really care for, and they took some weird chances with this.
I know.
It's not for most people, I don't think.
Did DC check in with her? Did she tell them what she was doing? It seems like they would have been like, "What are you doing?"
Apparently but apparently like the production was tumultuous. I just heard about that like the other day. So
I imagine there would have been a lot of pushback on the choices she was making. Like that makes perfect sense that the studio was giving her crap for that.
And I don't fault anybody for not liking. Like it's really corny and it's really silly and cheesy, and that's something that's kind of up my alley, though. I mean, we live in the U.S. of A. We put cheese in and on everything, all right?
Yeah, exactly.
I like a little cheese on my superheroes.
No, and I am still very much on the fence about the whole thing because that tickles, some of my nostalgia bone, and it's kind of fun to see somebody attempt to make that now and do it, again, a lot better than the last time I saw that done with Singer, but, But is that what a sequel to that first movie should have been?
And that's the hardest,
I don't know.
That's the hardest thing for me is reconciling with that first movie because, I mean, you know me, Cap. I'm like super family friendly kids movie wholesome guy. So I'm not like a cynical I can't not appreciate the silly stuff. But that first movie, it's so weird trying to watch it as a sequel to that first movie. Even her character, she was such a likable character in that first movie and so charming, and she had lots of relationships in that movie. All the Howling Commandos, she was she made relationships with everyone she met in that movie. And it's really hard for me to imagine her as just as soon as Steve dies, she's just this hermit and she doesn't form any relationships with anybody for 60 years, and she's I don't know. But I mean that's just premise. You have to go with that if you want this to take place in the 80s.
I'm with you. I can't decide if Jenkins and I guess Jeff Johns in this case, because he co-wrote this, and there's a third co-writer also. But I don't know if they made me buy that she couldn't have moved on from that. So that's just a matter of a concept over execution thing where well, you gotta make me buy that she wouldn't move on. And it really kind of feels like a given too much, where it's well, we've been told in other movies that she just never moved on and she's supposed to keep to herself and be an urban legend. And if I'm an urban legend, I don't really care what my background is. I'm not gonna wear those bright colors. I don't understand that. Just put on a black smock and go out and fight crime. I don't get it.
Yeah. I think that one of the weaker elements, I would say, probably this, if the third act is just lacks creativity and kind of loses me a little bit, and I don't like the opening scene, the whole part of trying to fit this into the whole DCEU thing, I feel like it doesn't really. I felt it was the weakest aspect of the first movie. It's one of the weaker aspects here.
Just don't bother with it. When you saw those
shows up and then she takes out some security cameras. Okay, we got the inserts. Okay, cool. Now let's do the action scene. And I felt like that was one of the reasons they set it in the 80s is because you could get you can have her in hiding better.
And you're telling me there's not one person in that mall sequence when there's 200 people all standing around with a camera? Not one person took a picture? Okay.
Are we to believe that that's her? That's the first time anyone sees her, right? Why? What about a mall robbing? Why does she come out then?
I don't know. Well, first of all, she's not coming out because she's still trying to hide. And second of all, I don't know that was supposed to be the idea. I thought the idea was that she's done this maybe several times before. And also there's it's like Batman, right? Like there's talk on the news about how there've been other sightings of her. So
yeah. But still, like, she waited 60 years to do anything. Or she's doing stuff in the shadows. I don't know why.
I think she's doing stuff in the shadows.
But why did she come out in the 80s then?
Well, she didn't. It's just they're being a little bit lazy about it, where they're saying that that's working in the shadows. Like, if she never has a picture on the news or anything, then that's how she's operating covertly without anybody knowing about it.
Oh, we're to believe she's done this the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
With her giant superhero
lenses? Yes.
Okay, well...
Because, as Connor alluded to earlier, it's a Silver Age comic book. Like...
Okay.
It is pretty darn silly. One thing, though, about the premise that I know that a lot of people, when they hear, like, a lot of people were just downright disappointed by the premise of the movie being...
Mutale, I don't know why she's in hiding. I couldn't begin to explain that to you.
See, that's another thing. Like, her, like, being in hiding and trying to not forge relationships and all that stuff. Like, it's because it's all trying to fit into the DCEU, and I just, like, that's one of the weakest elements just from a character. I think that's the weakest aspect of her character, is just they need to fit this into that continuity. But I think that the premise of just like the monkey's paw wishing rock sort of a thing. What I was kind of liking about that is that the monkey's paw is like, I mean, we say it the monkey's paw, but like stories like, or concepts like the monkey's paw exist across all of time in a bunch of different cultures, and like it's sort of mythic. It's an urban legend. It's a fable. It's all kinds of different things.
It's also like the Midas gold touch too. Like there's a bunch of those. Yes. Yeah.
And so, like, I think matching that with a Wonder Woman story who, like, is mythic and comes from, like, ancient, you know, like, Greek mythology and whatnot, I like that that's where you went with it. And I know a lot of people
one of the places where it is a lot like the first movie, where an explanation for all the wars is Ares, and an explanation for the fall of empires is the stone thing. Like, in that way, it's weird it doesn't call more attention to that, because in that way, we've kind of created a formula for these. Like,
yeah. And like I part of me likes that they don't deliberately say who created the stone, but if it's like the god of like desire, isn't that like Aphrodite or something? Or I don't think they even said it was the god of desire.
No, they said it was the god of lies. They actually do name drop it.
Okay. Well, is that Hermes then? Isn't Hermes the god of? Oh, he's the god of thieves. My bad.
The name was something I did not recognize. It felt like, I think they're picking and choosing, and I don't even know if it was out of Greek mythology. But I'm not sure. I gotta go back and look, because I didn't watch it with subtitles, so I didn't see the name.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I was just able to buy into this premise more than most people, and I think that like her in the shadows and hiding and whatnot, that was already something that a lot of people were like kind of questioning about the ending of the first movie. So it was something I was already kind of
down on it.
Yeah, I was acclimated to that, so that's why I think like it's dumb, but it's like the shock of its dumbness.
See, you say that, but they made a mistake in the advertising, right? Like, if you actually looked at previews, unlike DJ, and I wish I was DJ, and didn't ever look at previews, but if you look at the trailers, I think a lot of people assumed that Patty Jenkins just said, "No, that's dumb, I'm sick of dealing with that, I don't care if it contradicts, I'm going to get away from that." Because they show you some of that mall scene, and you don't know that she took out the cameras, so everybody I talked to was like, "Oh, cool, she's just going to be coming out in the 80s. Nope, we didn't do that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just kind of figured like I would wait and see it to see if they actually threw away the continuity of the DCEU, and I don't know. So I was fully ready for what they did, even though I know it's kind of dumb. So
that's fair. I guess I should have been. I guess I shouldn't have bought into that at all. But I thought it was. I just couldn't. I guess maybe part of the thing is I was giving her too much credit, where I'm like, well, surely she's not going to have Wonder Woman come out in the middle of a mall and then say no one has evidence. Oh, they are doing that. Okay. But anyway, we've got to get to a bunch of questions and comments. Before we do that, though, can we tackle two big things real quick?
Absolutely.
The first one is I want to know if I'm missing something, because it seems like for no good reason, and we haven't talked about Cheetah at all, it seems like for no good reason, Minerva at the end of the movie gets another wish, and I don't know why. Why does she get 2 wishes?
What was her second wish?
Her second wish was to become the Cheetah.
I thought.
Oh, Max Lord gave her that because he was giving everybody wishes.
Was like,
yeah, but here's what I
I'll
don't get though, and
I'll give her that.
It's not. Yeah, but she's already made a wish. Like, so the loophole is because he's the stone now. That's reset. Like, it's still the same artifact.
No, like I don't think she makes a wish. I think he just
gives it to her.
Yeah, because
one of his wishes.
He's hearing all of like their like wishes, and he's like, and this is my favorite line. He says, "And I will take your life force."
Yeah, that's great.
And then he says this, and then he like while the camera's like panning over to her, like you hear his voice. He says, "And I give her your this, and I give her your this." And it's like he's using the wishing powers to like
give
siphon.
her someone else's apex predator status.
I guess cats are making wishes in the 80s. All right.
I don't understand how that works.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone on that then. Did you guys notice this? I thought this is kind of interesting. Did you notice that all 3 of our major characters that make, not everybody in the movie, but all 3 of our major characters that make wishes, every one of those wishes is in some kind of a way, and some looser than others, one of the 3 forbidden wishes from Aladdin. All of them are there. I can't resurrect people, and I can't make people fall in love, and she just sort of has that, right? She can make people like her, so like that's kind of in there. And no wishing for more wishes, they're all in there.
Well, she gets around it the same way Aladdin does. He doesn't actually make her fall in love. He just makes himself a prince, and she just makes herself a super cool 80s chick.
Yes, but no. It is different, and here's why. Because, and I kind of liked this about it, where when she says, I want to be cool, it doesn't automatically change her personality and give her, like, a cool outfit and stuff. She looks and acts exactly the same way as she did before, but everybody around her treats her differently. That is different from Aladdin. Like, Aladdin, he's made a prince, and so people treat him differently. But here, it's everyone else's perceptions are literally altered of her.
So do they have the thing that Diana does, where they literally just see her as...
They just see Diana.
Gal Gadot's just walking into the joint and everyone's hitting on her.
Wow, that should like the office manager lady. That should have really freaked her out. Where it's like, wait, why? I thought I just met you yesterday, and now you're wearing like this, Halloween costume.
Yeah, so I guess regarding Cheetah, man, there's a lot to actually talk about this movie. Jeez, it's so.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll see you later, DJ. Bye bye.
Hey, actually, let me ask this super chat real quick that someone gave, because it's about Cheetah, and then it'll get you guys to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, Gooster123 says, Cheetah was basically the same character as Amazing 2, Electro, right? I liked the relationship between her and Diana, but wanted the more romantic tone during the dinner scene when the obsessive Electro route it went.
Yeah, it is the yeah. Thanks, DJ. We'll see you later, buddy. It was the Electro thing again, but certainly done better. There's stuff about it I like. There's stuff about it I don't like. I don't know. How'd you feel about that whole thing?
I get where they're coming from with the Electro. I think the more close, and all of these are kind of from the same strain of supervillain.
She's also Batman Returns Catwoman.
That's what I was gonna say. Is she is like, I feel like the obvious clear influence is Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. It's not as nonsensical as the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman transformation. I mean, okay, her turning into a literal cat is just as nonsensical, but the thing is
you at least understand the plot device.
Yes.
I still can't get anybody to explain to me what's going on with those cats and whether or not they're mystically giving her superpowers. I don't know.
Batman Returns is a fascinating, completely artistic expression of weird, like something sexual, something consumerist, something dark, something seedy, and it's also complete nonsense.
Nonsense.
But yeah. So the thing with Cheetah, so I don't like Kristen Wiig. I think I'm not as down on the 2016 Ghostbusters as everybody else, but I think Kristen Wiig's the worst thing in that movie. I don't find her funny. I think like her style of humor is like that era of SNL. Like her and Maya Rudolph are kind of cut from the same cloth, and I don't find them funny.
Yeah.
Amy Poehler is much funnier, and so it's like I don't. And so like when the movie, and so when I heard Kristen Wiig was cast as Cheetah, I thought, oh no. And then when the movie was starting, I was thinking, oh no, oh no, like it's just Kristen Wiig doing her, oh, hi, I'm Kristen Wiig, oh, that was weird, like, just shut up. And then, but then, like, once she, like, got her wish and, like, was, like, changing, like, and she actually got to act dramatically, I was actually very impressed with Kristen Wiig's performance. And there actually is a lot of neat, subtle nuances and, like, and changes to her performance as she goes along. And I was really impressed. And I think, like, just on a physical level of, like, how she, like, changes her body language. And I think Lindy Hemming's costume design in this movie is very, very impressive in a lot of ways. And she is the costume designer on the Dark Knight trilogy, and she's the costume designer here. And I think she's doing a lot of, like, heavy, like a lot of the heavy lifting does obviously come in the costume design and whatnot, but I think that Kristen Wiig does do a really good job selling the tried and true nerd turn apex predator villain trope.
Yeah, I found her surprisingly likable, especially on a second viewing. First time out, I had the same thing I did with a lot of stuff, which was, this is so typical. Why do we have to come back here again? But I ended up watching it again, liking her. The fact that she has, like, a real, honest-to-God friendship with Diana, like, that's one of the places where the movie being that long helps it a little bit, because those scenes breathe, and that's some of the stuff that might have been cut if we were trying really hard to get it down to a manageable, bite-sized morsel that kids would sit through. Kids won't sit through this movie, and Jenkins does not care. But like, I like that it's not that Amazing Spider-Man 2 thing where it's like she's so far gone, she's got like so much of a mental condition that she's like, interpreting everything that's happening completely incorrectly. She's just an antisocial outcast that doesn't know how to operate with people and is kind of desperate for friendship. She's lonely. Also, there's a clear, a character parallel between her and Diana, because the thing they have in common is they're both lonely, and they're two completely different people, but they share this loneliness, and so they find each other, and I really like that. I also like that their status keeps evolving. So like it's an unlikely friendship. I sort of end up buying it, and then they start getting more friction as Diana is getting in the way of her continuing to get what she's getting from the stone, but she's also still her ally through a lot of that. I like that. I like that it's not just suddenly a switch. You never have a just straight up villain switch until we get to the White House. And that was a natural place for that to end up going. And once it turns into, when Diana spells it out, like, you have lost your compassion. It was the best thing about you. You've given that up just so that you could be strong like me. What are you doing? And she has an opportunity for change and doesn't take it. On a second viewing, that worked for me. I don't know. Like, first time out, I was looking at her as just Electro again. The Electro comparison, also, it's hard not to go to, because when you get to the end and you have a cheetah fight, she's jumping around on power lines. Don't do that.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, I mean, not just Electro. Like, I've seen the meme going around where it's like Electro and Riddler and Poison Ivy and
she's that whole thing again.
Killian. Yeah.
But again, the thing you got to remember is it's an 80s superhero movie. You're gonna have that archetype in there. Like, we had that in a lot of those. They're not always villains.
She felt like Catwoman to me.
Yeah. And that's actually funny. We actually touched on Catwoman. It does feel a lot like Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah.
And but to your thing, like, I agree, Cap, that like the way we introduce and like kind of have Barbara as this ally throughout it, and her relationship with Diana, like, it's so believable. And like she feels it feels so natural to the story. But then in the third act, she's like like it feels like the movie just completely loses sight of her.
Yeah.
And then they have to go like, oh yeah, Cheetah is like a Wonder Woman. Here she is.
It should have ended. It should have ended the same way. Weirdly, Returns did, where we think she's dead, and then she's still Cheetah at the end, and we can do something with her later if we want to. If she's got anything like Wonder Woman's powers, guess what? She might be immortal, which means or at least not age very quickly, which means you could set another movie at any time you wanted to and bring her back. Why on earth does she give up her powers at the end? Like, I don't know why we did that.
I don't know. And
I didn't buy the motivation either. Like I bought it more with Lord in the context of this crazy 80s movie. Because if you tried to make me buy that in a serious film, I'd be like, no, that guy's too far gone. You're crazy. But this is not a realistic movie. I didn't understand why she did that.
But yeah, I don't know either. I was talking about this with my family, and my little stepsister actually brought up a really good point. Is that if Maxwell Lord recants his wish, then the wishing rock is like back in play, like it's a physical rock again.
Yeah, that's right.
And maybe it's in Barbara's, or I don't know where it is, and maybe Barbara could be like, on second thought, no. She goes
okay,
back.
that's a good call. Yeah, and honestly, if we're getting more, and obviously we are, more Wonder Woman movies and Jenkins is doing it, I would actually be really surprised if she didn't come up with some reason to bring Cheetah back. But that's just me. I don't know if I'm right about that, but I mean, that's Wonder Woman's big arch nemesis. It's kind of, I mean, short of doing the really 80s, 90s superhero movie thing and killing her at the end because you have two villains and one of them must die, I would be very surprised if she didn't bring her back. But I couldn't figure out how much of everything was reversed and how much of everything anybody remembered. People died. A bunch of people died. We saw people go, I wish she was dead. And they died. You remember that scene where that woman's like, I want $1 million. I want her to drop dead. You remember that? And then she just dies right there. Like, I guess all those people were fine. It's weird because you get the sense that when Lord recants his wish, that everything goes back to normal. But then, aren't there some things that are all messed up on the streets and stuff, where stuff's still turned over and things? Am I remembering that wrong?
Nukes can just disappear, Cap. Everything just fixes itself.
But it should really. But the thing is, that's also very Lester Superman, and very Superman 4 too. Superman's got telekinesis beams.
I'm surprised we didn't get reversed footage and buildings.
I wanted to see that. I was actually really hoping we'd go there. But that's what I was gonna say. Is I was really surprised that we didn't do that. And then at the end, am I remembering this right? Aren't there still some things turned over and stuff's messed up? So we did both. Okay.
In Christopher Nolan's Tenet Wonder Woman crossover, you'd have inverted destruction going on. That would be great. No, I gotta agree. I think it's weird. And also, so this was something that was brought up in the comments regarding the wishing that I was thinking about while I was watching it. It's a little weird that no college student type was like, I wish for world peace. Right? You don't hear that. And I think maybe that's a critique on consumer culture because hippies don't have TVs, so they wouldn't be watching. But it seems like everybody is wishing, and
somebody's going to say that. The thing is, they can't. And I feel like the movie tried to sort of deal with this, but I don't know, you can't entirely, right? Those things aren't going to all go together. You're going to have a lot of wishes that contradict other wishes.
Yes. It's like Bruce Almighty, right? When he just opens up his prayer email thing and he just says yes to all, and then everything just goes crazy.
That's what should have happened at the Morgan Freeman should have just showed up at the end of this and been like, okay, this is not working, I'm taking the stone back.
That would have made this movie a 10 out of 10. So
I would have loved it on first viewing, I think, if that had happened.
I think you're right. No Morgan Freeman, 0 out of 10.
I've got quite a few super chats, so I'm gonna start getting.
I was about to mention that. Okay, go ahead, man.
All right, the first one I saw was from Speed Vescu. He says, "Is there a Hans Zimmer curse? If superhero movie is not directed by Nolan and is scored by Zimmer, it will end up divisive. Dark Phoenix, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Man of Steel, BVS. Not sure why he asked it on this, but because he didn't do this score, right?
He did.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did. Okay, well, he didn't mention that. Yeah,
that would be why he mentioned it here. Yeah. Before we answer that, can I say? Zimmer's score in this is really impressive. I
like it a lot, yeah.
It's all over the place, but so are a lot of these kinds of movies. There are some things that I kind of wish he'd left out, and and some of them are things I think he was probably mandated to do. If you're gonna do Jenkins is having her cake and eating it too a little bit too much. You can't do the Junkie XL thing anymore. With this material, you get rid of that. You can't have the like not anymore. Like no, not with this material. It's okay in strings, but toward the end we bring back the electric guitar again, and I'm like, nope, doesn't work. It comes out of 30 years later culture. You can't have that anymore.
I don't know. Like, the 80s had a pretty bumpin' hair metal scene, right?
Yeah, but it didn't feel like that's where that theme started. I don't know. But man, that scene, the over the top crazy stuff he's doing like in the mall, and then right after that where it was sort of, or maybe before it, where we're establishing the 80s, like he went back to those movies and he really figured out that sound. Like that whole movie sounds like Superman 3. And I don't like Superman 3, but it sounds like Superman 3. It's kind of impressive.
And let me tell you, Hans Zimmer was making musical scores in the 80s. I think he did like the musical score for like Driving Miss Daisy and other
yeah, but he wasn't scoring the kinds of movies that sound like this.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying is like, but he was doing like an electric sort of orchestra sort of a thing. And he was, what I liked about this, this doesn't sound like the kinds of things he was scoring back then. This doesn't really sound like his scores from then. Doesn't sound like
anything he's ever done. I have a lot of respect for that.
I agree. But it is him returning to a sort of more electronic sound. And I thought that was really cool.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so I actually really like the musical score. But to go with something my dad actually was saying after we watched the movie is that at the end of the movie, like the music's like bump 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 bump, and then 20 minutes later the music is still bump 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 bump. Like it was we hit the fortissimo pretty early on, and we stayed at fortissimo till the end of the movie. So I did overall like the score a lot.
I don't agree with the curse thing. That's kind of amusing, but the problem with the premise is some of the movies you listed aren't divisive so much as there's an outspoken minority that really likes or really hates something, right? Like, what was that list again, DJ? Like Amazing Spider-Man 2, that was not divisive. Most people don't like that movie. There are some people that really do like that movie, and they spoke up when people said mean things about it, but it wasn't 50-50. It wasn't a 50-50 split. It wasn't Man of Steel. Like,
yeah, Dark Phoenix, Man of Steel, and BVS.
Dark Phoenix also was not divisive. But no. Most people I've talked to don't like that movie. And I don't mean to like all respect to your question. Just because there is not 100% of people agree on something does not make it divisive in my mind. Like, you're always going to find some outliers that like a thing. I like all kinds of things that other people don't like. I like all kinds of things that the majority of other people don't like. I mean, it happened.
Well, you like this movie now.
I feel so weird about this whole thing. Like, I enjoyed my last viewing, so I flipped it green. That's my answer to do you like it? Because if I see it again, I can see going entirely like I can see being on a pendulum with this. I don't know.
I can't wait for your rewind on this, Cap.
It's gonna be written by two Captain Logans.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's the review. It starts off with the way Rewind always starts, where it's like, the following is an in-depth analysis. I don't know. Let's get some more super chats in
there.
Yeah,
the next super chat is from Lewis Cox. He just says, Geekvolution Origins, 1984. I think that's when we were talking at the beginning about your birth movie that we're going to make, the Cap biopic.
Yeah, I know. It's been an hour. I'm sorry.
Mr. Roboto, what was the expectation? It a held back sequel?
Say that one more time.
He says, what was the expectation? It a held back sequel.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Don't know what it means, Mr. Roboto. Clarify if you can. I think you're still in the chat with us. But thanks for the super chat. John Ty. Jeff Johns and Patty Jenkins wrote Wonder Woman 84.
Yep.
But there was a third credited writer as well.
And it wasn't anybody I recognized.
Me neither, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But the way the credit reads is it's like Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns and somebody else.
Yeah. Which sounds
like
script doctor-ness. It sounds like somebody came in and did a pass after it, right?
Usually you can tell when like team wrote it versus when different people wrote it, depending on whether there's an ampersand or the word and. But this was weird because it's Patty Jenkins, ampersand Jeff Johns, but it's like the ampersand is after Patty Jenkins, and then for the third one, the ampersand is before the third person. So it's like, yeah, it seems like it's a script doctor.
So Mr. Roboto says the movie was held back. So are you suggesting? Are you asking us if it looks like a movie that they made in '84 and we put it in a drawer for 30 years? Or are you I'm not sure what he's asking.
I think he's talking about it being delayed. Like, what would you expect from a movie that got delayed, but it was delayed by COVID, right?
Is that what he's talking about? I mean, everything's...
But it sounds like she still got to make the movie she wanted to make. It's not like that the delay had anything to do with...
Yeah. No, I mean... Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how much of that third act is exactly what she wanted if there was tumultuous stuff behind the scenes. I can't guess at all that. I mean, like who knows? But maybe he's saying, like, of course it's polarizing because it turned out, maybe kind of odd and not what you expected, and so and maybe it wouldn't have been that way if it was a more unadulterated vision. I don't know. I don't know behind the scenes on that.
I think what they're talking about is it being delayed. It was supposed to come out last Christmas time, and then it got delayed until this summer.
But But is he suggesting that people would have liked it more if it came out then?
No, like the delays are emblematic of like bad test screenings or reshoots or something.
Oh, sure, yeah,
maybe so, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that
interested to know what test screenings would have been like for this if the people understood.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I imagine so. People aren't ready to go into a movie theater and see a movie from the 80s right now.
So I'm going to say this. If you don't care when you're making a movie about how accessible your movie is, because you can't make this movie and be all that concerned about that, unless Patty Jenkins thinks that a lot more people are nostalgic for this stuff right now, and she's kind of out of touch with younger generations, and maybe that's what's going on. But like, if you have to go to let me say this real quick. You have to go to the studio and you have to say, look, a lot of people aren't going to like this movie. And I'm making it for the people that are. So don't have test screenings.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like she didn't even. It's like she bamboozled them. I don't know how they didn't see what she was doing.
Well, her first movie made $1 billion. I mean, that's how they didn't notice it.
They're just like, all right, do whatever you want.
Part of me sees where she's coming from because like we've been riding this '80s nostalgia train for like my entire cognitive life. Like I don't know, like how. Like, I mean, I guess I understand where she's coming from, where it's like, well, people really like Stranger Things, and like the Transformers movies were super popular, and there's like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has like a new incarnation every so often, and like the 80s like properties and like 80s like culture has just been this thing that is just, and then with Guardians of the Galaxy and like all that stuff just feels like
but every one of those things is made with more modern sensibilities than this one is. It isn't that she's that she's riding nostalgia train. It's that she expected more people to want to see a movie made like those were.
No, and I know that that's what you're saying. I'm saying like I don't fault her for thinking I got a crazy idea. Here's an experiment, and like thinking it'll work out. And then, like, you have, like, executives going,
a part of me respects her for trying it quite a bit. I just don't know if it was the smartest move. Clearly it wasn't. A lot of people aren't liking this. And there's some people in the comments that have been calling me insane for liking it more on a second viewing. I mean, there's some people that really, really hate this movie.
Yeah, a lot of people hate this movie.
And then Anthony Cabrera gave us a $2 super chat. He said Johns did work with Donner, so the tone makes sense.
When did Johns work with Donner?
They wrote a couple of comic books together.
Oh, right? That's right. I knew that.
Oh, okay. Cool. Then Mr. Bottle gives another one. Thanks,
but
man.
To be fair, let me say this real quick. Yeah. Johns is maybe, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, Connor, I think Jeff Johns is the single most hit and miss writer in comics of all time. Like, he is all over the place, that guy. And there are certain sensibilities that you can see in a lot of the things he writes, and some things you're like, oh, Jeff Johns wrote that? Oh, okay. Like, he's got a lot of modes, that guy. He's a little bit like Goyer in that way.
Well, I think that the thing with Jeff Johns is that he got super big, and like he wrote, like, I mean, he got big with Green Lantern, but he also has a run on Teen Titans and a lot of other things that, you know, he cut his teeth on and that are beloved. And then he just became like the guy, and so he had to start writing everything. And he has like, I feel like at a certain point, into the degree that he's at least probably written a little bit of every DC character, he's sort of like Grant Morrison in that sense, and probably what Scott Snyder is going to be like. But I see Johns as a writer as more of a Snyder than a Morrison.
I agree with that entirely. Except it's been a while since Johns has written anything that I've really liked, and Snyder for me has kind of come back again the last couple of years. So.
Oh yeah, well, that's good.
Well, I like metal. Not everybody likes metal, but I do.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read a Snyder book in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I thought you were gonna say you were read metal and didn't like it. I was gonna be like, you know what, deal with it, because I like it. I like what I've read of it. I haven't finished it, but
yeah.
And this has nothing to do with anything. DJ, how many more super chats do we have? We are coming up on 2 hours, believe it or not.
Just 5.
Let's go ahead and knock those out.
Mr. Roboto gives us $2 super chat. He's giving us his suggestions for the sequels. He says Wonder Woman 3, 1985, Wonder Woman 4, 1990, and Wonder Woman 5, 2010, maybe.
Well, I feel like some of those first two are things that might have happened, you know, had the Rotten Tomatoes rating a little higher. But I think the likelihood of them staying in the 80s or even around the 80s is not real likely at this point. No, they'll do a modern day, and that would be fun for the cap off of a trilogy, right? Like, surely they just go right up to now at this point.
Yeah,
what do you call it? It's weird.
By the time it comes out, it'll be Wonder Woman 2024, and then in brackets 2024, because that's
yeah, I don't know what you'll call it, but you got to go with a completely different scheme, because the first movie has no subtitle, and then we just went with a date. So your last movie should you know, not try to follow any kind of scheme, right? Like it should have a colon in it, or sorry.
Well, you know what?
Wonder Woman 3 Parabellum. We'll just do the John Wick thing where they just go a completely different style for every single one.
See, I like that. That they're gonna, if they have a subtitle, it'll be great, because you'll have Wonder Woman 1985, and then whatever the third one's gonna be, 1984, and whatever the third one will be called, and it'll be like alphabetically in sync with one another, and I can be happy. So,
that drives me crazy. How do you put the Dark Knight movies on your shelf? I hate that.
By color, of course.
If you're DJ, yeah, exactly.
Which means they're all in the black section.
I think actually they should do the Dark Knight thing and the Man of Steel thing, and they should just take Wonder Woman out of the title entirely. So the last movie should just be called Lasso of Truth or something.
Lasso of Truth. It'll just be called Lasso or Amazon.
That's what they'll do. It'll be called Amazon. They'll bring back the Wishing Stone. We'll wish the like everybody on the Amazons that died to come back. Or did we kill anybody but her mother? Actually,
did her mom die?
I think so. Somebody died. Yeah.
In Justice League?
Connie Nielsen died. I feel
no.
Weird.
I thought in the first movie we killed off Robin Wright. No, not her mother. Not her mother.
The trainer. Yeah.
Yes. Right? Didn't that happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was fun to see Robin Wright again. I always like her.
Yeah.
I actually did think of you at the beginning of the movie, Connor, when Connie Nielsen's name popped up. I was like, wow, that's so weird. I know someone with almost an identical name.
It's the third twin we never knew about.
She's actually our secret mom. Keep it on the down low, everybody.
All right, what else we got, DJ?
All right. The scene where Diana announces her wish and flies in, probably my favorite scene, uses the music from Sunshine, and I would have preferred an original score.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so he says that's unfortunate.
We talked action a little bit. Did you guys have like kind of a money shot moment? Like was there a big action moment where you're like, because mine with the first one, of course, is that big battle where she has that big triumphant like slow motion walk thing. Like it's so good. Was there anything like that in this?
I like it. Sorry, what were you saying, DJ?
No, good.
He just said nothing at that level.
Oh, okay. Like for me, I got goosebumps when like the shots in the trailer where they're doing like the car chase, and then like the car flips over and like she jumps up and she's above everybody.
Yeah.
That felt like a really cool like splash page to me. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned I like the flying scene. Not a fight scene, but yeah, I like that scene.
I didn't like how we got to the flight scene. Even on a second viewing, I'm still not sure how I feel about that. It still feels like I meant to say this earlier, so I'll just drop it in here. It feels like we are doing that Lester, and now she has this power, and now she has this power. The invisible jet thing was a little bit cringe-inducing to me. I gotta be honest with you. She's
just like
for 50 years, all I've done is a teacup, and then I'm gonna make this whole plane invisible. And here's a question: how does that help with radar? Because she's like, well, it can catch us even if in pitch black darkness, and it's like. But we made the plane invisible, and that gets around radar for some reason, because clearly she knows everything about how that power works. She's only done a teacup, and it's been a big mystery until right now. Like, that was really convenient and goofy and went too far even for this material. I didn't like that at all.
Okay. That was hilarious. She's like, oh, wait, I have this power that I got from Ares. I tried it one time.
It wasn't even that, though. She said, I've been trying to figure out how to do it. Like,
well, she says she did a coffee cup and then she lost the cup, so she doesn't even know how long it lasts. But then she could just do it for the whole scene.
But I lost the cup. I wanted them to lose the airplane. I wanted that to be the mid credits where they're just like, "Where's our airplane?"
You know, that would be like that great bit from that SpongeBob episode where Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy park the invisible boatmobile and they can't remember where they parked it because it's invisible. That would have been great. But I don't know. So the invisible jet scene. You're right. The mechanics of getting there is ridiculous. It's really silly, and like even for this one, it strains credibility.
And it just keeps stacking. It's like, oh, and also it's the 4th of July, which we've not mentioned until just now.
Yeah, you'd think.
And we're gonna fly a plane through a bunch of fireworks shooting at us. Yeah. Through a grand finale.
Just so we can kind of have an inverse, like, can you read my mind segment, which was. Out of context, nice. I'm with you. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Out of context, those two flight scenes were pretty, but like it was so weird.
Yeah, no, like I want to say that like with the flying scene, with like the invisible jet scene, like my family is not an applause kind of family. Usually when we watch a movie, it's silence, and when the movie's over, it's silence. And one time I asked my dad after a movie, I was like, so. What did you think of that movie? You want to give me a second to think about it first? We're not an applause kind of family, and so during the invisible jet scene, though, like my whole family like got into it and like started clapping and stuff. It was kind of crazy,
really?
But like,
isn't that kind of obligatory though? You can't watch, and I realize that your family's maybe not common with people, but you cannot watch that over the top of an opening sequence after the stuff on Themyscira and not go, well, we're getting an invisible jet in this movie.
Well, I don't know, like, because we didn't get an invisible jet the first time in Justice League, in like any of these things, and like I was not expecting to see the invisible jet. Like even when they were literally getting into a jet, what I was thinking was, I thought we've had some pretty cool action scenes, and I would like to see how, because Patty Jenkins is going to be doing that Rogue Squadron Star Wars movie, I was like, oh, this will be a fun little primer for like seeing how she handles like aerial combat scenes. I'm actually excited to see that and see like how she handles it. And then it subverted that and became an invisible jet scene that became like a Superman flying with Lois sort of analog with.
Yeah, exactly. It's the can you.
And so. That was really cool to me. And like, I mean, yeah, the mechanics for getting there are stupid, but I thought the payoff for it and where we actually went with that just on like a character level was pretty fun. Like what that meant for those two people to experience that together. You're right. It being for the 4th of July randomly is weird. Like it's Washington D.C. and the 4th of July.
I mean, that's Superman 4 stuff right there. But I see what you're saying, Connor. To be fair, it doesn't help that from the trailers like a year ago, I was pretty sure we were getting the invisible jet. Because they showed that shot with the fireworks, it looked like you had a translucent plane behind that. Like, I was expecting invisible jet. And also, even if we hadn't had that, as soon as he's like, oh, they'll never find us. And she says radar. I'm like, well, okay, so the next thing they have is the invisible jet, right? Like from the trailer, I knew we were doing that.
I guess why I wasn't thinking that is I didn't think the movie would do something so stupid as Diana going, I have this power where I can just turn things invisible.
I was nervous in the moment. I was like, how are they going to do that now?
Yeah. I was gonna say I was expecting an invisible jet. I wasn't expecting her to make the jet invisible with her magic powers.
I don't usually do this, but I have to in order to do the line because I think it's the best line in the movie. So swear warning here for just a second. I feel like I have to actually say it. I think the best line in the whole movie is when they're in that jet. And I thought it was weird that she didn't think about the radar thing. I mean, nothing about how that whole thing is set up works to me. Like they get in the plane and it's like, what does she think was gonna happen when they commandeer this plane? But she's like, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you about radar. And he just looks over at her. His line delivery is so good. He just goes, well, shit, Diana. And I was like, that's fantastic. I love that moment.
That was great.
It's really good.
I want to geek out. Sorry, very quickly before we get to the next super chat. I love Chris Pine in this movie. I didn't mention that earlier. I think he's really good.
He's really good.
And I think that seeing him being completely jubilant just about the advancements in aviation was infectious, and it put a huge smile on my face, and I loved those scenes.
Yeah, he's great. I think he does great work in spite of everything that he's giving, like in spite of the whole situation he's in. Mr. Roboto says Cap does not create war; he feeds on it.
Yeah, so he was talking about the Ares thing I said earlier, and yeah, all I'm saying is it was a partial explanation for things that have happened in history in that first movie, and then they did the same thing here.
Yeah. And then a couple from TH1. Hey, Tom, I had a problem with Max's constant accent changes.
Yes, I had that too. I wondered which direction it was going. I wondered if he was trying to not do his regular accent, he was trying to fake an American accent, or if he was trying to put on a thicker accent. I wasn't sure what was going on there.
And then he also says, I think the idea is supposed to be that she doesn't want to be like Diana anymore, but instead to become an apex predator, so she exchanged one wish for another.
Yeah, but I think it's more what you guys are saying, because they don't touch in that moment, and that's kind of key. Like, when she says, I want to be an apex predator, which I can only think of Chronicle at that point. I wouldn't have used exactly that line. But, like, but like, any time before when you get a wish, you have to touch his hands, and that doesn't happen there. So I think you guys are right about how she gets it, even though I still don't understand how it's specifically that. Like, somebody else was a cat person, so now she gets to be a cat. I don't know what's going on with that. The Apex Predator thing, I think we could have built to a little bit more. She could have had more of like an animal thing, but I do like the idea that she gives up her whole humanity, so now she's so obsessed with power, she goes to animal. That makes sense. I mean, I like that. And we foreshadow it, I don't want to say subtly, but throughout the movie with a lot of cheetah print, like all over the place, and then she's wearing a cheetah print outfit at the point that she does that. But I don't know, like, there are animal things here and there. We're told that she's like a cryptozoologist and stuff, I think. So, there's a little bit of that. I think she could have been a little bit more into animals, but you don't want to diverge into, like, cat, obsession like you did with, Catwoman and Returns, I guess, so.
Yeah.
But, like, the first thing you see before we introduce her is, like, a big giant elephant or, like, woolly mammoth outside. I was like... She's into animals, you guys.
By the way, she looked pretty bad at the end. Like, Cheetah did not look very good.
I was disappointed. I thought in the trailer she looked pretty cool, and they didn't like that, right? It was way too dark, and then when they got close on her face, the makeup was pretty silly, and yeah. And that fight wasn't great, and I don't know. I'm talking about superficial stuff at this point, but that was disappointing. I don't know.
How do you not learn from cats? Literally just came out, and everyone hated the cat.
Exactly. Sorry, Connor, what were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just going to agree that it was weird. Like, cheetah, I mean, the color of a cheetah is pretty well known, and it's not blue.
Yeah.
That entire scene is so darkly lit, she looks blue because of the lighting choice. And yeah, I was disappointed by that fight scene as well.
Mm-hmm. John Ty gives us $2 super chat. Thoughts on the Linda Carter cameo?
I don't have thoughts. It seemed obligatory to me. It was like we haven't talked about this, but I mean, obviously we're leaning into that TV show with quite a bit of this movie. So like it wasn't a surprise to me that she showed up, and she acts hammy these days. Like whenever she's in stuff, especially if she's if it's because she was Wonder Woman, she always really hams it up. She's doing exactly what she was doing on the CW.
I thought it was cute. I have no connection to Linda Carter Wonder Woman. I just know that Linda Carter at one point was Wonder Woman, and I have seen more posters of her as Wonder Woman than I've seen frames of that TV show, and like I got no connection. So I was like, oh, it's Linda Carter. Okay, yeah, she was Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm so glad it was after the credits.
It
would have really taken me out if they did that in the middle of the movie somewhere, because it was, even for this movie, it was super cheesy.
Agreed.
And then
I'm
Anthony
glad
Cabrera...
she wasn't the president. Can I say that? Because in the CW they made her the president, and I guess it's fine there. But I had that thought. I was like, we're not gonna get to the White House and Linda Carter's the president again, are we? In 1984, and then it was like, oh no, we have to make it look just like the 80s. So there's some generic guy that people can argue about whether or not he's supposed to be Reagan, because he looks a little bit like Reagan, but he's not doing anything like a Reagan thing. So yeah,
she could have been the principal of some superhero school in the area.
Yeah, right.
I forgot about that.
I love Sky High. Anthony
Cabrera. He brings that. He doesn't let me forget about that.
Jeff Johns used to be Donner's assistant before his career in comics. Also, how does this story here compare to Aquaman?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Real quick, Tom said that at least it looked better than Cats. So he at least it looks better than Cats.
This has the opposite problem from Aquaman. I mean, where they're similar is that they're both pretty over the top and have some cheeseball moments. Where they differ is that one of them is an entire season of television stuffed into 2.5 hours, and the other one is like an hour of television stretched out to 2.5 hours.
Animated episode stretched out, to 2.5 hours.
Yep, that's the difference. One of these is bloated, and one of these is really overstuffed. Like,
that's interesting to compare them that way.
This is the one that's not overstuffed. This was the bloated one.
I have a feel like I don't know what it is. Something about just the time of December and the tone these movies are trying to go for. I think I enjoy like Wonder Woman and Aquaman the most. Well, then there was also Shazam, which is set at Christmas, so it wasn't releasing Christmas. But that one's actually the best.
That's true, and that one should have been released at Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, Shazam is the best of those three movies. Yeah. Definitely. Natalia says Aquaman is more fun. I think overall I maybe kind of agree with that. I don't know. Those are weird comparisons. I guess I did flip my sign green in the first place with Aquaman, but like, I don't know. I think I was won over by the bombastic insanity of that. More, it helps too that was the first one, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Like, I'd met that character, and it's not the Aquaman I wanted, so I already knew I had to deal with that. And then with this, it's a sequel to a movie that I put on my top 10 superhero movies of the decade, and it wasn't anything like that movie, and so it was hard to adjust to it.
Yeah, Aquaman is cool. That's like a bunch of producers like, we don't know if we're ever going to make a sequel.
Exactly.
They look down at a stack of comic books and they're like, okay, how do we do all of it?
That was a trilogy of movies. Whenever they announced Aquaman 2, I said, what is the point of that? You already made all of your movies.
Yeah, I think Aquaman is a more fun movie just because like I still to this day get this goofy grin on my face when I watch that, because I think, how did they make this? How did they get away with it?
Well, we kind of have that with this too. Like, how did she get away with making this movie?
Yeah, you know what the difference is? Aquaman was really well liked. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of fans that don't like it, but it made a lot of money.
Aquaman made a lot. Like, it did insane.
Yeah, nobody expected that to be $1 billion movie. I think it made more money than Wonder Woman did.
It did, yeah.
It did, yeah.
It was like 800 and something million.
Yeah, I said $1 billion earlier. I know I didn't get to quite $1 billion, but yeah.
Yeah, Aquaman crossed $1 billion. That's hilarious.
DJ, how many more super chats do we have? We are
good. Oh, well, we just got one that's completely unrelated. If you want to close with that one.
Tom, $2 super chats. Soul Spoilercast next time. Actually, yes. Connor and I are going to do the Soul,
cool.
the one for Soul probably next or this coming weekend or early next week. We'll let you know when we get closer. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I might be doing that tonight. I'm not sure yet. When I was thinking about not doing this as a spoiler cast and just how we felt about, I thought about doing that and Soul together, and then I went, well, that's a dumb idea. People are going to want us to talk about this. So, and 2 hours later, I was right about that. All right. Okay. Any other major topics concerning this movie that we haven't broached that we should talk about?
I wanted to briefly mention that I liked, I think the way they visualize it and the way they try to, like, physically manifest it into the world of the characters was a little weird, and, like I said, made it feel like it lost some creative spark in its third act. I like that the lasso of truth is we're trying to do different stuff with it. Instead of it just making people to tell the truth, it's trying to make people see the truth. I like
Which
that
is kind of a cool idea, but it also feels like it does just whatever the movie needs it to in the moment, right?
That's true.
It's like, oh, we need to show some flashbacks of this Amazon lady in her big golden suit, so the lasso can make you do that. And the lasso can talk to people over the TV if it's wrapped around the guy who's talking over the TV. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the mechanics of trying to make it work.
Right, no, I know.
That's that Lester stuff.
I agree with what you're saying, but I also wanted to make fun of it because it's funny.
Real quick, now that you mentioned it, Cap, can we talk about how dumb the gold suit was?
Yeah, go ahead, because I agree.
She just came in, like,
why does she need it? It's like, okay, she establishes it, it's there. I don't know what the point of putting it on was, and she's already learned how to fly. She doesn't need the wings. It would have made sense if it was, I need the wings.
The wings just were, like, Cheetah just beat the wings up in, like, 10 seconds.
She fights Cheetah with the wings for a minute, and then she's like, these are really bulky. I should take these off. And then she takes them off, and then she's not that on anymore. And it seemed like it was just an excuse to have her have some other cool-looking suit during the movie. Like, but why did she even go back for it? That's what I didn't get.
Especially because she already got her powers back. I could see if, like, she didn't have her powers, so she felt like she needed armor, but she had already got her powers back at that point, and it was just, I don't know. That was like the whole marketing, and that was really disappointing that suit was in it for like 10 seconds and it was pointless. I don't know what that point of that was.
Agreed.
Since this is kind of related to that, going back to the power thing, to her, getting new powers in this and it being, kind of easy. That's an understatement. The one thing I like about that, not the way she gets her new powers, but I do kind of like that while she's got this whole trade-off thing where she's making the wrong choice with Steve and she's having to lose her powers, that, like, that's when she's getting new ones, so she gets, kind of rewarded for making the right choice at the end. I want to like that. It's just weird how it happens, but I like that those two things happen simultaneously, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anime says she wanted to wear pants for once. That's why she has that gold suit, so she has pants.
And then we got one last final super chat for Mr. Abato. He just says, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, Greek God Justice League, maybe?
Ooh, I would be down for that.
I'd be all about that, yeah, absolutely. That's
just
cool.
A Trinity movie?
Yeah, but don't call it that, because people would freak out. Like, you can't call it that and not have Batman and Superman. Mutale, Cap, where is the film on your DCEU ranking? I don't know. I haven't felt the need to do the ranking thing with these because it's like the couple I like and then just everything else. So I don't know. It's like this is probably, I want to say in the middle, but it's not. It's still higher than that because there's too many movies I really don't like. So I don't know. Because, like, Birds of Prey is way below it, and Suicide Squad's way below it, and obviously BVS isn't good, and I think story-wise, I still probably put this over Man of Steel, but I feel weird saying that. I don't know. So yeah.
I have this ranked number 2.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I have it just above Aquaman and just below Shazam. So, sorry, everybody.
Well, and I mean, I think Wonder Woman is that first movie is as good as almost every one of the MCU films. So that ends up easily skyrocketing to the top of my list. But then after that, yeah.
I need to rewatch the first Wonder Woman movie. I just do. Like, I saw it one time. It was not a good experience. I was like in the second row all the way over to the left, so I had a whole trapezoid thing going on. And then on top of that, there was a couple having a blanket over themselves next to me. And it was very, very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, and see, I had a terrible first experience with this movie, too, although I think if it had been perfect, I still wouldn't have liked it the first time. But, like, I made the mistake of watching it on a smaller screen, and I kept getting interrupted, and, like, I had to get up a lot, and I wasn't in the right mood to watch it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, variables matter.
Yeah, they do. They do.
All right. Well, are we good to wrap up? You guys think? Have we done a thorough analysis, as it were?
Look, my brain's going to be in recovery mode for the next few days.
I'm good to go.
Talked about this, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Connor. We went like this movie with the Lester stuff. We took it way too far. We really did.
There's a lot of high-level ideas in my head right now that are just killing me, so I gotta rest.
He's got to go take some more dog pills.
Oh, these are dog tranquilizers? Okay, never mind.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. We're going to go ahead and call it a night. Connor and I will be back with you again, possibly on Sunday. That's the tentative plan right now, but it could be later just depending on what's going on. So we'll let you know when we get a little bit closer to the day when we're going to do Soul. And then next week, we're back to normal on the channel. So DJ and I will be coming back to you again on Tuesday. And I think we'll just do a Captain Logan show and probably do the next Marvel Mania the week after that, but we'll let you know. DJ and I have not talked about that yet. So anyway, people have been asking me when that is. I don't know yet. We'll be getting back to the Marvel Manias again soon, and I'm taking the rest of the week off to spend with my family. So everybody have a great New Year's. I hope you had a good Christmas and happy everything, whatever you happen to celebrate around Christmas time. And thank you guys for spending so much time with me chatting about this movie. I sure appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Glad to be back.
All right, later, folks. I was Captain Logan. That was Connor Nielsen.
Thank you for having me, everybody.
And DJ Martinez.